Morning, Zach. We're up. Some reason didn't want to take it. Okay. Okay. Just for those out there in the video, just so we know, we just basically called the meeting to order. We did a roll call and we did the Pledge of Allegiance. We're getting ready to go ahead and get started on the first item, and this is item number 4: presentation, discussion, and direction concerning budget for fiscal year 2024-2025.
All right, so Mayor and Council, I will go ahead and just start us off. I'm going to have all the departments come up. We'll start in the order with the ones that are on the dais. So we'll start with Animal Control, go to Library, PD, and then Municipal Court and Parks. But just wanted to just briefly, and I know in the stuff that I sent out, there is stuff we talked about at the original workshop meeting, or the last workshop meeting we had, like salaries and wages having the 3% built in or as a starting place, have been built in to the proposed that you see on those listings. And then if there was any requests, which you'll hear from the individual departments, for any additional employees, then that has also been built in just to show a starting place where we're at. Obviously, ultimately, it's council's decision to move forward one way or the other on those, but I at least wanted y'all to have that information in front of y'all. I will preface most of this. We definitely want to focus primarily on the expense portion. The revenues are just kind of fluctuating. We're still pulling some of that, so that may not fully line up to where we're at. So I do want to make sure that that's understood. And then some of them, like workers' compensation and some of the other things like fuel, might be a little off. Some of those lag behind a couple months, and we did have an increase in workers' comp. So and we're working through. Literally yesterday, Lynette and I had a meeting with RISPool, TML RISPool, on some workers' compensation stuff. So as we go forward, there was an increase last year, so that's where some of those may not line and are over budget. So I just want to, make sure to point that out. But of course, if there's any specific questions as we're going through, feel free to ask myself, or even as the departments come up, we'll work through that. So again, we'll start with animal control, and then we'll go from there.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Mr. Mayor, how you doing? Right now, we've sat down with Zach already, and we went over our projected budget and everything. Right now, I'm going off of this year and this year only, again, because I don't have any quantifiable data from the previous year. So right now, this is basically where I want to project, and also there's in multiple phases right now. If you notice, we've kind of combined a few of the line items together too, because it cut to me the way it looked was there was kind of a lot of them that were kind of bleeding into the same thing. You could, if you just bring those line items together to make one. So that's why you see some of them already said it increased. But the one thing we started looking at was food for animals. Right now it's going up because the prices are going up for surplus and everything. So it needs to keep the animals fed and everything. This is why we asked for the increase. And then we're going to go. We'll go on down with capital improvements. Right now, we have improvements that we have been looking at for the facility itself. I know every month we come up here and we go through the project. We say, we need looking at the doors, the garage doors, to actually seal it up, to seal up the kennels area itself. We've been looking at some other different avenues to either completely get rid of the garage doors and just seal it up and just actually add a door and everything to both sides, so we're not having to worry about replacing garage doors and everything. Just trying to streamline the project a little bit more, make it more user friendly and feasible. So we're not trying to AC all of Lytle and around the community services around there. So, but again, this is again the start of multiple phases right now. So right now we're looking at right now, he said I met with Mr. Zach here, and we talked about getting a replacement shed, one that we can get insulated and everything. So when we do get food, we can actually put it in there, because the other shed that we currently had before, due to infestation with mice and everything, they removed all the insulation out of it. and it's just horrible in there right now. So right now we've already gutted everything out of it. We've cleaned it out and everything, but it's just we're having to start. We need to. That one needs a whole lot of work to be sanitized and clean. So this is why we're asking. I've done some work on checking out a few different other locations for sheds, like the tough sheds and everything, ones that we can get insulated. We can get a unit mini split put in there, so one you can keep all the food fresh. We can actually put canned food in there instead of overstocking some of the areas that we have inside the facility. So these are going to be in phases. So again, we know we didn't want to just go in and up front there throw a big number up to the council and yourself, mayor, and everything, because then I know that would get completely shot down. But again, we want to work this in phases, and then as we go through, we can project for the next year or the next budget cycle and everything to know where we're looking at, and if we do have the funds to continue on to a different phase. Okay.
So that mini split, you have it included on that capital improvements?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We have it included with the shed and the actual mini split itself. So we have that is actually incorporated into that. So again, we went on the higher side just in case, if there's something comes back up, or that's to include something that we did not foresee. Either if they're getting an electrician out there to they have to run the power from a different source, or where we have to find source to it. So again, these are little things that are unforeseen. So again, this is why we budget just a little bit higher.
And council, just to let you know, on the second page on the top of the food for animals, and you see where we had something projected for this year and then for next year with the increase. The reason that they normally do that is because we don't know what we're going to get from Humane Society, and depending on the type of food that we get from Humane Society. If we get the type that we normally use for the dogs that we're taking care of and the cats, then we pull that aside. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
We pull that aside, and that saves us money from having to go to buy. So it's better to be projected just like this last time. For Bella's Pantry, I mean, we're very limited. We didn't get a lot of food we were able to hand out for other folks. So it just depends. So they're projecting on the high side just to make sure that you give yourself a little bit of cushion, just so you know. But you can also see on there how much they've used so far too. Okay.
Question, Daniel.
Yes,
Under capital improvements for 23-24 year, y'all didn't spend any money at all on capital improvements?
Yes, sir. Again, with all that, I was looking and trying to understand, what had happened. Because honestly, that was before, so I can tell you about what was done at that time.
Find a record.
Yeah, I'm honestly just trying to find a needle in a haystack, and was not happening, wasn't working. Going back and looking at, like I said, walking around with Miss Betty, and then some of the officers out there asking, okay, so what improvements, what was say that was going to be done, and then what actually did get done.
Right.
So the two weren't.
If I can jump in a little bit, if you notice the repairs and maintenance is actually currently expended at $9,390. The line item a couple down from obviously the capital improvements, which was over budget, and I think some of that probably can be reclassed back to capital improvements. So we'll have to take a look at that. So there could have been some that are just in that line item.
Makes sense. Thanks.
You had some of that, and then correct me if I'm not wrong, we did find some equipment that was supposed to be installed that got installed, like fans, but they weren't purchased this year. They were purchased before. Is that correct? Yeah. So there was some projects that they did based on availability of stuff that was purchased previously to be able to take care of that. But I know there was some different repairs, AC and other things. I think we had, was a washer donated? That was donated. Okay, so there were some appliances that needed to be swapped out. So they had some donations along with that too. So
If I may ask about the overtime, I see that we're budgeted at 3,600 and we're at 7,300 already. Is that something that we need to look at as an increase? Do we need to? I mean, that's way over on that part.
So I would say, obviously, you not here, but we had obviously some turnover in animal control. and we were down to 2 individuals out there that expended a lot of our overtime because it was only 2, so they were always on call, both of them, you know. So I think I foresee now that we're basically full staff over there, we do have the part-time position open, but they are looking to fill that here in the next couple of weeks. I don't foresee that needing
Okay.
to go up at all. I think we'll be in line, but you know, that's partly why it's so
So,
high.
so we had the combination of the personnel and or the number of people, and then having to provide the coverage. And then we also have one of our employees is a National Guard. So when they get pulled, well, the other person has to, and that's where the overtime comes along to play with that too.
On the revenues, I see you have a minimal increase on surrender fees and adoption fees. Coming into this new position, are you going to reevaluate and see where we're at according to our comparison to other cities?
Yes, sir. We've actually, myself and Miss Betty, we've been searching and we've been around the Atascosa, San Antonio area, the Medina County, Atascosa County, Bexar County, and we've checked on a lot of comparing to, some actually don't really have surrender fees. Some have adoption fees are start at $135. You know, that's flat across the board. We are currently right about theirs, but ours is $101.25. That was right now is our surrender fee is, some people don't have surrender fees. A lot of don't have surrender fee. Some have very minimal. Ours is around $30. But the thing is, right now is where we now. That's something I said. We're going to be talking with Mr. Zach here again with a projected to bring up to the committee, to you gentlemen up here, about a possibly increasing, the surrender fee to kind of deter people from, making sure, hey, you that a dog or a cat is your responsibility. We just can't. Once it gets older, it doesn't mean the new is rubbed off. And now you have to toss away. No, it's a living, breathing animal, so it's a creature. What you need to take care of. That's responsibility. And lowering the adoption fee, because right now, what's really deterring a lot of people that come out, we've actually been getting a lot from all over. Our farthest right now we've got is we actually had one that went to Amarillo. One dog went to Amarillo on transport, and then we had a family that came from Conroe for one of our dogs also. So we're getting out there, but the thing, a lot of it is their deterrent is the cost for the adoption.
However, we do have days where we reduce the amounts.
Yes.
So
well,
that right there will help. And I realize that if somebody comes along and they want to do an adoption fee, they're going to have to pay what the normal rate is going to be, right?
yes, sir.
Because we don't have anything going on at
Yes,
that
sir.
And
point.
we're, if you recall from the last, one of the things I need council to look at is our fees across the board, to kind of make sure we're keeping up to date. So obviously we need to go back.
So Zach, this would be included with all the other
Correct. So
across
all
the
fee
board.
schedule across the board.
And this is what we talked about doing once a year, right, with the council? Okay, which is something that we
So that
haven't
would be
done in the
included in
past.
that. At that time, we need to look at, obviously, Daniel and his group will have suggestions of what we need to go to or what they believe we should go to based on comparisons from cities around us and that kind of stuff. And obviously, it'd be up to council at that time to determine does that make sense or adjust it.
How often do we have those? Was it every 3 months or where we had the adoption?
I think it just depends on how many we have.
Based on-
So-
We went back to see when was the last time that the actual fees were agreed by the council and by the mayor himself. And we went back and we didn't find it. The only time was just twice. That was one was Saturday adoption fee and it was $50 for that one day. And then that was roughly that. We were searching, trying to find a foundation to start off with, and then from there, we can, adjust so that we can really find what we have to do there.
Yeah, we're gonna look at them. If you look at this, get in mind.
What do you worry about, maybe, going to try to go with this, have all the fun.
Would you be able to
Yes, sir.
lay out
Yeah,
where?
so right now what we're doing with that with families, we actually have them to make sure that they're a good fit. We actually have them foster first, and then once they foster and they say yes, they're like, we want this, okay. But we get the ones that hey, we don't have all the funds up front. Is it possible? Where we can work something out. We go, yes, we can work. You $20, a week, or every 2 weeks. What do you get paid? I get paid twice a week, once a week, or once every bi-weekly or whatever. $20, and you know what? You can still foster them, but you're still, as you're coming in at this time, what you're paying. You're paying until it's all paid out.
So it would seem like in lieu of lowering the adoption fee, that fostering program would work.
Well, it does work, but there's things with the only bad side of caveat is we have to have the animals take them in for shots. I think it's where they're at. A lot of them are not in this area. They're from outside of San Antonio, the New Braunfels area. Having to come all the way over here just to get some shots. Or we'd say you can take them to your own vet, and you just need to send us pictures of it. A lot of times, they're having to pay more money. But here, we provide an activation that's covered with.
I'm pretty sure there's a lot of pet owners, regardless, would take it to their own.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If you ask me, like, if you have your own vet, you take it to your own vet. Just send us the documentation that they got their shot, and then so we can update it on our form and something else that shows it. On this day, we put all the information in there. So when it is time for them to be adopted, we give them a copy of everything, and it goes out there with them.
So Dan, you get with Paola. I remember council, we've had a previous discussion about adoption fees based on the number of dogs and cats that we had. I remember having that discussion. Remember, Richie, didn't we?
I think we just never adopted it. Basically, it was a real simple thing. It would, at a certain number, when the animals reached a number, it would automatically trigger a reduced rate.
Correct. That would help you. I thought we had.
I don't think we ever adopted anything out of the case. That's the case.
The only thing we ever changed was that they were gonna come for the one event they had, and we were gonna lower
Okay.
that for that event. Anything else, we never adopted anything.
So-
That's why we.
Yeah. So let's put something together. The council. I don't know. I just. Yeah. Remember, we actually talked about it and said if it gets to this level, then you don't have to be coming back to the council and asking. You automatically would be able.
That's why let's get it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you for all the hard work over there. Really appreciate it. And Betty, thank you for being there. I know you're going through the transition period. Worked out good. Good. All right. All right. So let's see. Library. All right, Sandra.
Okay, all right, so I don't know if first thing what we wanted was to get a part-time employee to help out. And right now, the three of us that work there are all full-time. Joe sometimes works up to 35 hours a week. It just depends. But it was kind of hard this last year and then this year because one employee was out last year for surgery and then another employee out this year for surgery. So it put us kind of behind in some places. But that's one of the things we'd like to do is get an employee, have a part-time employee to help out. And then another thing was to get our book budget increased from 10,000 to 15, because otherwise we will not meet our maintenance of effort with the state and not be an accredited library. So we have to spend a certain amount, an average of a certain amount within 3 years, and it's got to increase every year. And so the good thing was that this year the county had given us an increase, so it kind of balanced it out when we kind of lost it this year from the city's portion. So it worked out for us.
What happens if you don't spend
If
that
you
much
don't-
money?
If you don't spend that money, then you won't be accredited, and then it affects the other 4 libraries in the Atascosa County, because then they have to take on that. And we've had that point where another
Who
library has
regulates
done.
that?
I'm sorry,
Who regulates that?
the state library.
There's a state library commission?
Yes, state library. We have to report to them every year. So it's a huge report that they ask how much you spent, what you spent on what. Yeah, it's everything they ask you.
Wow.
Yes.
In a way, it's like an unfunded mandate, in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see, and if you don't become accredited, then you lose out on all the grants, like all these big grants that they offer.
Okay.
So that's the reason why we have to stay.
So Cassandra, how does it work? I'm just thinking out loud. So this is for books, right?
Mhm.
So how is the state taking into account if a community decides to invest in electronic books versus hard copy books?
It's still the same thing. You still
Same
have to.
thing.
You
So
still
they're
have to
just looking for an amount.
exactly
that
have
you
to
invest.
spend, exactly.
Okay.
And they want to make sure that you have at least 5% of your collection is within the last 5 years. So, and most of our collection is within the last 5 years. So
Okay.
I know it's crazy. We are going to move up to a new platform with that ebook e-reader because it's not been doing real well. That the one that they marketed, I guess it's just not as great as they thought it was. So another company called Baker and Taylor, which is who we order from the most books from, they are picking us up, or they're going to pick up with the state library, and we're going to go to this. It's called Boundless, and we'll be going to that in October. So we'll be offering more ebooks to the patrons, and we'll be able to actually purchase from Baker and Taylor to add to our collection, so we can purchase.
And all
ebooks.
those expenses count towards that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So
So that 50% increase includes the ebooks.
yes.
And the cost of the ebooks is a lot more than paper, right?
Yes. Well, if we went with that Overdrive, like say for instance, Patterson, who's very popular, a Patterson novel is like $100, and then the way they figured out in Overdrive, after 12 checkouts, you have to purchase the book again, and I'm like, but I got a same Patterson book on the shelf that goes
Right.
out
And it-
30 times and it's still in good
Yeah.
shape, but I still have you have to buy it again. For them, it's almost like it's money making for them, but I don't know.
And you are getting enough interest now in ebooks.
Yes.
Just-
Yeah, that's what it seems like. It's weird. It's because they're like, after 12 checkouts, you got to buy it again. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
no, copywriting is-
no. Yeah.
So you are getting enough interest on ebooks.
Yeah, we're starting to get,
justify-
it's just that with this particular one, it's just, I noticed it because I tried, using it myself and I was not very impressed with it, but it's just, we're dealing with what we have.
So you've been looking at other than Overdrive too.
Yeah, so that new Boundless is supposed to be a lot better. The app is a lot better and smoother apparently from
Right.
what we're using with what's called Simply E. So
Yeah,
I mean,
we
they've done their job. I can't complain.
Yeah.
But still, it's just like some of the patrons are like, I don't know. You get it for longer than what you get a regular book. They get it for 3 weeks, but it's still kind of it's difficult for some of these patrons.
And the salary and wages, that's projected for 3 employees.
Is that okay? I didn't even.
Right?
Mhm.
That you said that earlier.
Uh,
You currently have 3.
Full-time
Yes, there's 3.
employees, and then that 14% would include the 3%.
They would include the part-time.
So 3 full-time, 1 part-time.
yeah, that would really help us because at least that would somebody could be at that desk most of the time, not leaving the desk unattended, and just answering the phones, and we do copies, faxes, printouts on a daily basis. So it's just, but besides checking out the books, checking in, and doing all the other stuff, we do all that as well. Okay, and then the other thing was the technology expense. The reason on this one is our ILS system, which is the integrated library system where we check out, check in, where all the books are housed, that went up. And I had spoken to Lynette about that because it went like $500 jump, I think. So it went up in price a little bit. It's a really good system. We really like it. In fact, the schools were all looking at it, but he wasn't working with schools until recently. Now he does provide us for the schools, like a separate ILS system.
Is this renewed every year? You have to
Every year
pay?
we have to pay this fee, and this allows us for the patrons to look at the books online through the catalog, and yeah, it's a really neat
You
system.
don't want to go back to index cards?
Oh, I remember
you're
doing
saying?
that. Yes, I remember doing that with the card
Go to
catalog.
Rolodex and, you know,
We don't
oh,
actually
yeah,
have
you
that
know.
anymore, but yes, I know you had to pull that little thing out and put everything back. Oh,
They
that was
upgrade
interesting. Yes.
They upgrade the software for you?
Yes,
every
they
year?
do regularly. They upgrade it. In fact, now it offers where if they if they look at a book, it says if you liked this book, you'll like these, and it gives them a suggestion of these books. And we also have access to if they forgot their library card, they can open up their account on their phone, and it has a scannable library card. So all they do is pull up their phone, and we scan their card on their phone.
Wow.
Yeah, it's gotten really nice.
Time to be a librarian.
Yes, it's been a lot of fun. Okay.
Actually, some school districts, unfortunately, have been, not ours, just saying, I read an article where there's some school districts are cutting out the librarians.
Library, yeah, unfortunately, they're getting cut in those places just because
Not in the public libraries, but in school districts.
the cost. Yeah, the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, just right, again, right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
promote people not getting the book.
Yeah, it's
The other, and you may have addressed it in a minute,
Okay.
but the other thing on the technology, I think, was the ADT.
yes, the ADT. We needed to upgrade the ADT because according to the rep, we have a dinosaur pad, and of course it says Brinks on it, and Brinks is no longer there, and so it's ADT. So we need to upgrade that.
There's a one-time cost and then a little bit, understandable.
So remind me, is it a requirement or is it?
It's just that we had break-ins years in the past where they were throwing stuff in. They tried to break in. Do you remember that, Chief, with that big old crowbar that the guy
Yeah,
had?
what does it cost us a month though? If we're
Um,
on any of our city facilities?
It's probably like $150.
What would it cost? What's the upgrade cost?
About $600 to upgrade that.
But again, we need to work on that because we need to be getting the notifications on that. They should be going on for.
I'm just thinking out loud. And I tell you, you can get something, Wi-Fi connected, senses motion, it's got a camera inside.
You have the ones that cameras that flash red and blue.
Yeah,
Right.
and it won't cost you $600 plus installation.
Okay.
I mean, I'm just saying if we're gonna do it because we need to do it, I think we need to look at what technology offers out there off the shelf.
Okay.
We can put it on one of the corners, multiple devices, and you can see it on your phone.
Right.
You
Now
know?
we have several cameras in the library to keep an eye on because people walk in thinking that you can't see them, and we had a kid in the past that didn't think that we could see him, and they took the disc out of the DVD box and threw the box on the shelf and walked around. So I confronted the mother, and she's like, she didn't realize that had happened, and I said, "There's a camera in that corner, you can see everything."
I just think
System's
it's
internal though, right?
Yeah, that's. I mean, we can definitely explore some other options.
Yeah, I mean,
We just
whatever.
currently have that, so that's obviously why I think the gentleman came out and said, it's basically serviceable the way it is, so we need to upgrade
Right.
And they are gonna do hardware upgrade.
or we need to.
Yeah.
switch to
And that does include hardware upgrade.
just take a look. I think if it's not a requirement and you're looking just to make sure that we can capture and record, and the technology's out there. I mean, you can literally get some movement.
Right.
You can watch it on your phone. It's like, oh, there's the ghost again, walking around, right? So I think it might be better. I just took care of a few houses that I was helping out some veterans out just to help their families that are not nearby, and I installed the system in there. They can watch the parents from where they're at, and it's a lot cheaper. I'm just gonna say that. So take a look at it, and you have Wi-Fi, right?
Right.
Yeah. So you can just connect.
One important factor too, Mayor, is the fact that we have our own policing system. So, I mean, why are we paying somebody else to monitor it? But yeah, I think that would be good to look into.
Okay.
May not have to happen this year, but
It'd be different if
definitely
we had all of our facilities also on. some
one
sort of,
system.
Yeah.
Monitoring
system.
system. Yeah. I know.
If you go to the new subdivisions where the houses are like right next to each other, I mean, you can literally, I can walk from one of my son's house and I walk down the street and I get whistled, and it's not from people.
It's
Oh.
It's the camera.
It's the camera, right? Yeah.
It detects the movement and it turns the camera on and lets you know it's recording you, right? Out of the carport or the garage. So there's devices out there that are very reasonable. You can connect them. There's a lot of technology. You
Okay.
can watch it on yours. So, you know,
One good thing about it is that like ADT, they're pretty good about calling 2G.
Yeah, that they we had a break in that one time, and I think Hanson had went in the door before me, and he checked the building. And we don't know what set it off. That was the strangest thing. And he walked in there,
And
and,
it's-
it was
and it's
just
good.
weird.
but I'm just saying
Yes.
the cost that goes along with that.
I'm sure there's
And-
other companies that
Right,
are like
right.
ADT. that-
Right. That's what we
The
went.
issue is if we're gonna, I mean, we need to really, I mean, obviously the alarms are there to protect our assets. I mean, so if that's the case, when you look, where are our, I mean, City Hall, if City Hall's asset value is 20 times the library, then we ought to have an alarm here too. Or the
Right.
community center, or wherever, I mean, or public works. So let's get, that's what I've always thought is, if we need it, we need it. If we don't,
The other thing too is that all these doorbell things that you find, I hear you can't even use that for, if somebody gets hurt or, you can't use it in court, is what I hear.
now that we, pretty much any video evidence, as long as it hasn't been tampered with, is,
I mean, it don't make sense.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all
Coming out of the
admissible.
news.
I mean,
You can't use it. Why so?
Yeah, but
It goes like that.
I want to see that ghost that moves the books around. That's what I
Oh.
want to see.
It's an interesting little character.
That's what I want to see. That'll be good. All right, Council, anything else for Cassandra?
I just have one more thing on here. The seminars and travel and the dues and association, those had gone up this year. We kind of went over on those, I think. Because Joe was out for surgery in April, I had that training that was in San Antonio, or the TLA conference. So I had asked, and we closed the library for the week so that April could attend, and she was able to get the training as well. So I think that's probably why the training went up and the cost, because we paid for her membership and then also the conference. So
And I will say the 3,000 on the dues and associations, that's actually, a portion of that should go into the office technology for that system that,
mhm.
it just was reclassed wrong. So
Yeah.
I noticed that yesterday. So.
Yes. So that's what we're just asking for, the increase on those.
Yeah.
There's more training going on, and they're sending us to different
Nice.
places. And next year, the TLA conference is in Dallas, so it's a little further. Now, the county will pay for our hotel stay, so it makes it easier on us. And then the girls said that they would like to carpool so that we don't have to, take too many
So
vehicles
you just
that
cover
way.
the per diem and the
Right.
mileage.
Exactly.
Okay.
So that's what we're looking at next year, possibly. Any other questions?
Council?
Thanks,
All
Cassandra.
right, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. Richie.
so, real quick.
The basic line items are all about the same. We went down on a few things, supplies, I think, a few little things. We went down a little bit because this year we had enough. We're able to buy a little bit. When I'm talking about stuff, I'm talking like ammunition. We learned our lesson during ammunition shortage a number of years ago when you couldn't even buy it. So now, we have to keep enough for a year or two because it could quadruple in price. And so things like that. So now we have that. So we don't really have to look at buying stuff. So we're able to bring a few things down. There's still a few line items I don't totally understand. We got some technology line items. I'm not sure exactly where all that goes. That's changed over time, but those are fairly minor. Of course, the biggest training, obviously, we don't need an increase in that because fortunately the state gives us some money every year, and this year they gave us a little bonus. It's in a dedicated account. That's not reflected on here, but I think I have $4,000 or $5,000 in there, so that will buffer our training. But I will tell you, the cost of the seminars has probably doubled. Hotel rooms double probably. It's terrible. So anyway, but that won't affect our budget at this point. I'm just throwing that in there because I definitely understand where they're coming from. As far as on the line items, everything's about the same. The only thing I'm really requesting an increase in, or at least an increase in any substance, is the miscellaneous equipment. We had been getting like 13,000. I want to try to move that to 20. We're going to try to buy out of that a drone or a electric powered utility vehicle, like a golf cart type vehicle that's designed for law enforcement, so we can patrol these subdivisions when you're having this stuff. You can do it at night or daytime too, but it'll help us. It's a little more discreet, give us a little more mobility, you know. So if we get that 20, then we'll have time to look at there and make a decision on whether we want the drone or that. And to be honest with you, we possibly could squeeze a couple of them in, depending, you know, one of each in, depending on whatever else we have happen throughout the year. Really, the only other thing is we want to try to add one full-time officer, and I think that's simply because, you know, everything we've got going on, the houses, the truck stop that hadn't opened yet. But, you know, I think we're just seeing a lot more activity. Our night officers, for many years, one officer could handle a night shift. And now I'm anytime we have one guy calling sick and we just got one going at night, it's kind of an elevated deal, you know, so we've been trying to backfill because there's a lot more activity at night than there was. But that makes sense. Our nighttime population has gone up. As you have more houses, your nighttime population goes up. And when you get this truck stop, your nighttime population, if they've got room for 70 trucks, so you're going to have automatically 70 more people living here overnight, and some of them are a couple people in there, and then all the other people that come to the truck stop and the services they provide, which we won't go into detail. So that's why we're doing it. Now, we really probably need 2 officers. I mean, ideally, you would probably put 2 in because you want to really get ahead. But I mean, I think one will help us. We are looking at a grant that, from what I understand, we're going to put in for possibly, or y'all are going to put in for it, for potentially 2 officers. And possibly we would know, from what I saw, it would be funded, it would be approved prior to the October 1. If we were to get the grant for 2 officers approved prior to October 1, then we could add those 2 officers at a huge, I don't have the numbers in front of me. It's
through a COPS grant.
Federal government.
Basically, we would still be on the hook for a portion of their salary for, I think it's like 3 years or something like that. And then after that point, we would have to incur the full cost of their salary. But the grant would cover a significant portion.
I think it's about 75% for 3 years it would cover. So, I mean, it's really, unless you just really didn't have any money and didn't have any need, it's almost a no-brainer. The only thing is, if we do get a grant for 2 people, for example, then, well, I mean, there's startup costs when you hire someone, a little more equipment costs, but that could all be, I mean, once we get a little closer. But if we don't get the grant, then we'd like to get 1 person, you know, that we could budget starting October 1. You know, that would give us 11 full-time, which would, you know, it would definitely be a start getting us to, you know, that area we need to be in. We've got a lot of officers that do a variety of things, and, you know, and work a variety of shifts. So it sometimes hinders us a little bit, but we've done it, and we can still do it if we have to. It's just, as we grow, we're going to need to have a little better, you know, a pool of people to get stuff done. Because sometimes, I mean, I'm trying to find somebody, and I got, you know, 4 people I call, and they're all out of town, and, you know, so it's just, you just need to have, you know, more officers. As I would like the night shift, I think, is really going to end up being a 3-person deal. You know, I mean, on 12-hour shifts, 6P, 6A, or whatever it is, but you really need 3. If we hire this person, then what that would do is they would probably predominantly be a 3rd person for, you know, either half the time or 3/4 of the time, depending on the length of the shift. And that way you'd have more coverage. And if someone was sick, you know, or vacation, you know, you can backfill it without stripping your day shift sometimes, or vice versa. So that's really it. We don't have any big, you know, I've done the budget kind of the same for the last 24 years. We try to put enough in there, like equipment, miscellaneous equipment. We had some in there. It shows a little more because we've done some purchases. Obviously, about this time of year, starting about 45 days ago, we're far enough through the budget year where I start saying, okay, I'm comfortable spending some of this money on these projects I wanted to do, because early in the year, I don't want to spend all these projects and then come up with something bigger at the end of the year. So that's why some of ours now we've made most all our larger purchases, you know, and that's kind of where I don't really think, is there any, I haven't met with Lynette or Zach on like dollar per dollar for, you know, like what some, you know, how we can actually get the super final numbers, but I think we're.
So Richie, just for justification and
Yes.
just looking across the board, I'm just looking at your overtime pay right now.
Yes.
So last year we budgeted 12,420, and currently right now we're at 19,149.
Yeah, so what we do on that is when we're short an officer, we use that officer's salary to backfill his position. So basically, and like I was telling Mr. Meadows there, our overtime will always, our bottom on the salaries will always come out under what's budgeted. But to backfill, like say if we have say $5,000 a month, what it costs us for an officer, I'm using that, off the top of my head. Then we have $5,000 for overtime. We'll pay out. We'll schedule not that much exactly, but some months it might be like last month is a little more. This coming schedule I'm putting out, it's actually quite a bit less. But the budget stays in budget.
I'm with you,
Okay.
but you're asking for us to get another officer.
Mhm.
So the correlation would be if we're at 7 months in and you're already above budget, right? You're already showing that you have a need,
No, not,
right? I'm just,
go ahead.
so what I'm saying is if you're already showing the numbers, if we get you another officer, then we should technically have less overtime next year. Is that correct?
No, because you're going to have a certain amount, yes, to an extent, but the overtime you have now is because of vacancies. That's why that overtime.
I am with you,
Yeah.
but if we get you somebody
Yes,
else,
then you wouldn't have a vacancy.
we,
yes.
we will still have some overtime,
yes.
but we shouldn't be going with the delta where we're above what we projected with overtime.
Well, I would say yes, but the reality is in today's environment, we could be full staff and lose 2 officers in 1 month. So yes, that would be that would be, as long as you're full staff, then you're exactly right. You almost have no overtime with the exception of things that happen right at the end of the schedule. But if you're going to lose 2 or 3 officers, which you can have them coming and going, already have an officer that's going to retire next year, at least one. So we're going to that's why we're trying to get these other.
I'm with you.
So, yeah.
I'm just saying, I mean, to prove justification, you're already above your overtime because you have to work people. So
Yes.
we need to get you the personnel.
Sure.
But the end result is there's a higher probability that our overtime next year would be less than what you're asking for. So in other words, if we get you and you stay within the means, our overtime should be less than 13,000.
Well, yes,
right?
And the issue is, obviously, the more officers you have, sometimes we're limited. So I'm limited to who I can pull in. So I have to pull someone in on overtime. Where the more officers you have, you can schedule. And if someone's like, say for example, if you had 15 officers on a department and you're 1 person short, you'd be able to spread that out completely, and there shouldn't be any. You should be able to absorb without any overtime. See, but now if you're 4 people short, well, it's probably not going to work.
Totally understand.
So
But-
yes, exactly. I mean,
Okay. I'm just trying to show
Yeah.
the council how we
Well,
can
sure.
actually help them out
Yeah.
because they're already showing the numbers based on the overtime.
Yeah.
Well, I agree on that one
Yeah, I
officer,
mean-
and if we can do the grant for 2, that'd be great.
And what if we did, in my opinion, I mean, obviously 2 would probably be the ideal number. 3 was probably pushes us into another realm of trying to more vehicles and other issues. But if we could, I don't know what our ability is to hold off and how we know about the potential for the grant,
I think if it's the desire of council to move forward with 1 officer, then we need to go ahead and plug it in and go that route. And obviously, if we're only going to be on the hook for 25% of their salary, then for 2 officers, then potentially that absorbs that 1 officer's cost that we built in.
Actually, you'd probably still be at a
You'd
positive.
still probably be in a positive.
You'd have
And
money.
and that's
If
some-
route to go, then that's the route.
And that's something I would say we look at because if y'all haven't been around truck stops bring in a whole different variety of people, right? And just that's a city on its own over there. And I speak out of experience, right, dealing with truck stops. And that's going to be, I would say, 1 officer is going to be assigned to that truck stop because the calls you're going to get just for that truck stop is going to be crazy.
I mean, I think we're just going to see with our because we're we got a huge residential growth. I don't know how many new homes we have so far in Saddle Ridge, we have
I think the
150
I-
homes altogether.
I
maybe?
thought it was 116.
So you've got quite a
120, 130,
Yeah.
something pushing there.
yeah. So I mean, you got quite a few homes out there, and they seem to be moving pretty quick. And if you come down Pearsall Road lately, and y'all travel Pearsall Road from 1604, if you haven't, there's 2 new subdivisions up closer, probably where that line got cut, and the one out here very close to town, right off Greenwood.
And they all come in this way.
If you haven't been to the one off Greenwood, it's got about 15 or 20 homes under construction and some double wides moved in. It's huge. And it's just, what's that, 2 miles up the road from us?
Yeah.
Not that we're going to be handling that, but I mean, the people are coming out here. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's ideally, if we could get 2, it'd be perfect using that. If
When
not,
is a
we
grant going to be awarded?
So, Renee said that we should know by October, before October 1. So,
That's still
Uh,
your area anyway.
we need to
Call
pass
them,
it way
right?
before
Well,
that.
we've been not
I mean-
too bad
well, I
lately.
think that's why, again, I think if you.
Yeah, just-
So council,
Build in the one officer.
I think we need to go ahead and plan on
I
us
think the
hiring
one,
in the
and then see
second.
what happens with the.
Yeah.
Now, do you have a possible reserve or anybody that, hey, you know what? We didn't get the word by
No.
October, and you
Well,
can put that in as a part,
No,
something to
I
do
mean,
until
no,
you can
not,
full
no, I
time.
think we'd be fine. I mean, I think the main thing is I'm going to get this. I've still got people. I'm trying to fill this position I've got, but both of them, one goes to school full time and one works full time. So I'm having to work with their schedule to get some testing done. But I think we've just pretty much, we just need to pretty much get and then just work on trying to find someone to fill it then. I mean, unfortunately, it's just the market today is so volatile that if I offer you a job and tell you I'll pay you $60,000 a year, but I can't start you for 30 days or 45
I'm looking
days,
somewhere else.
that somebody else runs in there and tells him, I'll give you 5,000 more and start you in 2 weeks. Atascosa County has a hiring bonus of $3,500, which that's unheard of for Atascosa County, for them. I mean, that's something the old Sheriff Williams would turn over in his grave, because it's a weird environment. We've been very fortunate because we have retained a lot of officers, but it's a very odd hiring environment. I was at the Alamo Area Police Chiefs meeting this morning. Chief from Castroville sat next to me. He says, I got 2 openings right now, man, and no applicants. And I said, well, I know the feeling, I mean, it's just, that's the way it is. But we're okay with that. We're not in the position most of these departments are in, and they'll mention that to us. I think Divine's short several officers, and they're trying to rebuild. The key is just the funding for that one position, and then if the other thing comes through, we can do however we can do.
I mean, just doing some preliminary numbers, let's say it's at 75% based on the base salary of what we are pushing to, you'll be fine by budgeting 1 officer. That will cover 2 officers if we get the grants.
The only issue we have is we go with 2. There's a little more startup cost, so we may have to move a little money around, like for if you have to buy a little more equipment for a startup position because we don't have.
Well, you could move some of that miscellaneous around, right?
Yeah, or that, or if there's, depending on what. Yeah, we can move stuff
Or there
around.
would theoretically potentially some excess salaries.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be very substantial,
Yeah,
just
so we look at the one and then see what happens with the grant.
that's
You got to remember, we already know the potential of the growth of Lidle population is there. It's going to come. If we can get this grant money to pay for it, we're just that much better off.
sure. That's it. I mean, that's my.
Like the mayor was suggesting, let's try to get this done.
And I think that'll keep us. I'm a little more conservative, I'm not as aggressive with stuff but I've been doing it 24 years and we've been very fortunate. We've had, never had any real budget problems in 24 years. Not the city and not me in particular.
Just know that in 3 years' time, we are going to be on the hook. for
Absolutely.
full
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If we get the grant, which hopefully, but I think in 3 years, you're going to see, I don't think you'll be going much further, much back. Much than then.
Everything
We're
else.
going to
Yeah.
be talking about getting another office.
There's
Yeah,
gonna
you
be- there's gonna be
may
more-
be in a whole.
There'll be
nother-
more grants coming in at that time, so.
On the salaries, what's the count for the proposed budget?
I'm sorry.
So,
He's
yeah,
asking
it
for it.
wasn't in there, and the reason is because PD is a little different with how we log it, and so
Okay.
I realized I didn't have that full number, but I can provide that after this meeting.
Okay, that's
I have to
fine.
work with Lynette on her breakdown.
That's fine.
There's
So,
just there's some extra costs that go in with PD that we pay for PD that don't go for other departments, so it's weird.
Or the hourly, the way you
Yeah,
calculate.
we're on 40, or not me, I'm on salary, but the officers are on a 43-hour work, 171 hours in 28 days, so 42 and a half something hour work.
But I would say if you take, again, the 3% was built in, and then an additional about 59,000 with everything, give or take, for an officer, an additional officer, so it gives you kind of where you're at.
The other question, Lynette, the phone system, I noticed on this budget proposal, it was taken out of the line item.
Mayor, I just made a note for Zach. So the phone systems, for the new system is gonna be about $30 a phone. And Chief has 10 phones over there right now, so his budget will be about 3,600.
So down.
So
from
you are
10,000.
gonna keep it in each group?
Yes, sir, I would
Oh,
have
okay.
break it out. So 8x8 sends me a monthly bill, and I was able to break it, each cost out by phone. It's a flat cost across the board.
Now,
It's so nice.
If we add an officer, though, it's actually $30 per license. We don't actually have 10 phones, but I guess it's per license. So if we add an officer, then that's going to be that much. So, I mean, I'm still learning about how the phone system works, but it's,
It
it's,
comes up to $30 a phone. It's like $28.90.
Yeah, because I noticed that line item wasn't in the
Yeah,
class.
I just made a note on it.
Okay, thank you.
Council?
Those are some of those that we're still trying to work through and figure out.
but it's a neat system. It's a good system. It really helped us yesterday. I mean, it's a good, and it's cheaper. So, but any questions on anything else? I mean, that's kind of where we are on it. Nothing real, other than the officer, nothing real, life, everything else is just kind of,
So,
Yeah, no, the new phone systems it's more mobile. That's what it's meant.
oh, it's wonderful. Well, my wife says it's not so wonderful, but I
I'll let you.
I like the
Obviously,
idea.
everywhere.
I like the idea of the drone, right? Because I mean,
Yeah.
that's what everything's going
Yeah.
to. An officer can sit there, throw the drone up,
Yeah.
and cover a whole
well, you
subdivision
see,
area.
that's the way it should be. But you're talking about Richie. So Richie is going to look for the drone that he can sit on and go up
that's
and
the
go
most,
around.
right?
He says, right. And
Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
gonna go old,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he's gonna go old school. So he's gonna be down
Y'all
there.
learning law enforcement now. See,
This is the surveillance. He's taking pictures from the drone like this. That's That's gonna be the surveillance.
yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, because
So we'll
you
work
can
on that.
cover, so many areas, especially these burglars we've been having and stuff.
Yeah. And actually, a lot of the drone stuff. Now, the difference is public safety drone. It's a little different. We've got to get licenses. We've got to put all our flight patterns on the internet. But you hire a company that basically does that for you. And we've got tons of resources for drone people that'll help us. Actually, one of the guys today was talking about they're putting on a drone program class, the ACOG guy, in a few months or whatever. So there's a lot of stuff. And actually, the price, we bid it year before last, and this time it actually came down last time we got a price. So that's something pretty unheard of. And that's what I struggle with. Yeah, I mean, I think we saw something around 8,000 or 9,000 or something. So, but I mean, so one thing we struggle with is, what these costs that have just changed so much. And I remember taser cartridges. I just bought some taser cartridges for training, and our cartridges for tasers used to be like $20 a piece, and now they're like $50 a piece. So if I have 10 officers, and each one of them has to shoot 2 a year in training, well, that's $500 just not even deploying it. That's just for training right off the bat. So it's a lot. Those costs have gone up, but we're the way life is. But anyway, I'm certainly here. Any questions? We're moving forward. We're trying to adapt as we adapt to possibly looking at different things like patrol districts as we we're looking at how the city changes and the neighborhoods change and the traffic changes, which we never had the night traffic. Obviously, as the mayor and I, we were over there at that critical incident, and all the people coming in Saddle Ridge that lived there coming in at what time, 1, 2 in the morning. So I mean, it was it's just the patterns have changed, and the truck stop will be our next big deal. Of course, my main concern over there, I'm going to tell you, and of course we've addressed this before, is I don't know how we're not going to have 5 accidents a day down there. If not, I mean, it's going, but I mean, I'm being overly,
private property.
I'm afraid where 3175 comes around there, those 18-wheelers, but that's just me. I probably worry too much about stuff that I shouldn't. Wait till it happens. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Richie.
Yes. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right.
All right, so on municipal court, there's really not a lot of changes. I will tell you that we're just kind of moving and shaking going forward. Just kind of looking at some of where we're at expenditure wise for the year. I kind of knocked some of them down a little bit just for next year because it is. I mean, I think it was a little inflated in some of those, but. There's really not much change. Obviously, the salary is the 3% built in. But one thing that court we're going to have to figure out is as we continue to use the community center, what technology comes along with that. But of course, we do have some flexibility with Court Technology Fund and some other funds that can help us in that respect. So it doesn't necessarily hit some of our other kind of baselines. And so that's one thing that we'll have to kind of look at and work with Frontera or whoever else, in respect to that.
Are we
So-
looking at moving more towards the community center?
Yeah, so we are strictly, other than our upcoming warrant roundup, we are strictly everything at the community center for court. And the reason is honestly just the amount of people, and it's really too much, and it's spilling over into our adjacent neighbor, and that's caused some issues.
It's even in here. It gets pretty busy.
It gets pretty busy in here,
Yeah,
and
the
it's
normal
just,
city visits too.
they're
Exactly.
out the door and wrapped around the building. It makes it difficult to conduct, everything. So
How's the noise problem in the community center?
Richard probably.
It's really not bad.
I know when we had the city council meeting in there during COVID, it was horrible.
Well, I think the difference is basically everybody's kind of sitting back there, and then the court, the attorney or the judge are talking to people more like just.
Oh, so they approached the bench, so to speak,
So it's
yeah.
very, very little, the only normally is like, if I'm working, we'll make announcements to the people, exits, bathrooms, put up phones. So really, we don't have the same problems that we definitely had during COVID.
Okay, and I guess the people would absorb some of that
Yeah.
echo
I'm
noise
sure,
in there too,
yeah.
right?
Have larger.
So I think that's probably where we're going to see maybe some adjustments, on that core technology and trying to use that. I know that Lynette, when she got here, she really worked to get that because they weren't even logging that previously, I think. So, that's been a big help to now start using,
Even-
that money
Yesterday,
associated.
since we were there, we were talking about even one of the rooms that is in there, maybe converting it to where we can actually have a CPU. And in the old days, we used to call it a bridge, where we would be able to connect and be part of a network in that way. Because right now, they don't have the capability of being able to run the credit cards and it automatically populating the different areas and the fees and everything. They can run the credit card, but then they have to come back and manually load it. So if we can get something over there, it'll make it a lot more efficient. It's less work for them to have come back over here. And the best thing, just like Richie was saying, yesterday, is being able to have them pay while they're there, right? And pay the fee or pay the fine that goes along with that versus they walk away and then we're waiting for them to come back or do something.
Well, maybe as we're looking at something else besides Frontera, we question that, and it can all be considered in a big IT thing, that they can do it all together. So they might, there's got to be something out there that they can integrate for everybody, see if that's something we can put in there.
If not, I'll go old school.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm talking about the old com days. Go old school. There's other ways of doing stuff.
I think it's a combination of working with whatever that IT person is, whether it's Frontera or whoever, right?
Yeah.
And then also with our Encode, which actually houses the everything for us there.
We just need it to be an extension from here. We just
Yeah.
need that computer to actually be an extension of City Hall without any
I would
issues.
say the good thing is there really hasn't, we don't get a lot of during the week activity at the community center, so there really hasn't been an impact to like rental fees or anything, on that standpoint, which is great that we have the ability to kind of pivot and move over there and do some of that. So
On these items, I know revenue covers costs, but can you explain the municipal court fees, the
believe
expense
that's-
side?
Lynette may be able to help me out with that one, but I believe that's fees that go back to the state.
So, wait, which one? Are we looking at the last?
On the
one?
expense,
On the
so
expenses.
it's an expense court category in the last page.
Okay, so the municipal court fees are what we call a criminal cost fee. So every ticket that is taken, there's literally 17 different items, and it could be 2 cents, 3 cents. It's really a pain for me to reconcile. And those fees, we get the fines, the state gets the rest of those fees. I have
Okay.
to break those fees out every quarter, and I have to send it.
So that's why it's an expense,
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
even though we get a revenue from
Yeah.
it.
Every time we get a revenue, we still have to pay those fees back because I am collecting those fees for the state.
Okay, thank you.
right?
But that comes out of the finance pay. It doesn't come out of our general fund or
It's not
anything like
coming out of
that.
our fund. No, it's collected at the time that they pay for the ticket. It's part of the ticket.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Thanks.
All right. Anything else? Cool beans. All right.
I do have one slight update to the park one.
Okay.
Pass that around. While it's going around, and I might have printed too many. Lynette and Paula can have one as well.
Okay. So the one you gave us before, don't.
Yeah, don't. Sorry, it was.
Okay. That's okay.
We made some adjustments,
No, that's
so
fine.
just to give a better picture of what's been expended in park, and then I'm sure we'll get to one of the line items, and then we can have our further conversation that already got brought up at the last meeting. So, but obviously, I think generally, for the most part, it's pretty consistent where we're at. There's not a lot of line items, in park, obviously. Most of that, the first 6 or so are all kind of your standard stuff. The park electrical expense, obviously we've done some electrical work over there and taking care of just some general improvements and things. The capital improvement, so we're keeping it at the 15. Some of the repairs and maintenance, that 21,000 could potentially go between capital improvement and miscellaneous park equipment, which has nothing expended currently. But it's not going to be a ton that would come out of there. The primary thing that's in the big chunk of stuff that's in the repairs and maintenance side currently is the Sontero and the actual park maintenance, the mowing, like we discussed previously. So, because that is the biggest component of his contract is the park. So a large part there. Then we've had just some odd in, things that have had to be taken care of over there and repaired, mainly at John Lott more than any of the other parks. But we didn't really, I think some of that we just need to get a better handle on and then figure out. So that's why I kept it the same in there for the proposed budget, because I don't think that that's a reality going forward to keep spending that amount of money. But if there's any specific questions that point out to everybody, and like I said, if we want to have a longer conversation on the mowing, I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
What equipment does the city actually own in being able, I know we have weed whackers. I know that.
So we have the little gator that.
Well, that's to transport, right?
To transport.
And to be able to spray for
then-
weeds and stuff like that, right?
And then we do have a lawnmower that he.
Push or in riding?
I think it's riding.
I want to say I sent him on a riding, like
it's a riding.
zero turn one.
Yeah. There has been some needed, and we need to take it for some repairs. It's been neglected, some of it, which I think is the story on a lot of our equipment, unfortunately. But that's the equipment that we currently have over there.
Who do we have for like small repairs? Like say lights in the pavilion. Who does that? Is that the contract guy?
No. So Wayne would typically handle that, our park maintenance person.
Oh.
If we've had to, we did. So like under the capital improvement, we had some stuff that like the Connex box that was bought is out of that for Little League. We did also purchase some like movable mounds and bases, and that was all purchased out of that. We actually have some electrical expenses that are coming because we're adding some plugs to the light poles that are already existing out there. And unfortunately, that's work a little bit above what our parks maintenance person could do. So that would be someone we hired out. But odd in lights and things like that, that would be our park maintenance person.
So the 21 is because we have somebody out there that's doing the
I'd
extra
say
cutting and stuff.
I would say a big chunk of that 21 is Mr. Santero's portion, he's charging under the contract. It was a monthly cost of $1,110 for John Lott specifically.
Every time he comes out.
Correct, monthly.
No, it's monthly. So
Oh, so it comes out monthly. It's
He's coming.
well, I will tell you're correct, but I will tell you that once you get into little league play, then there's more times that he has to be out there. So certain time of the year he's supposed to be out there more than other times, but that's kind of balanced out across the board. Sometimes he automatically does it. Sometimes we have to contact him and be able to get him out there.
The one thing though, Wayne.
The Veterans Park as well as,
Coal mine.
oh my,
So the cost is in here.
those costs are reflected.
Okay.
Those costs are reflected in the 21 as well. So you have,
I consider that the part.
yeah.
I don't have it.
So the 1,100.
So
that
1,100
includes-
is John Lott. You have the Veterans Memorial Park at 109.96, and then you have I don't know if are you including community center or Gidley House in any of those?
No, that's under repairs and maintenance, under, no. The only ones that are gonna be in the park are gonna be.
Oh, and then $100 for the Matias Glacia Park in Coal Mine.
13 extra.
So 13.
So his total cost for the city is $2,275, and it's broken down between the library, community centers, parks,
Animal control.
animal control, and one more.
I think that's it.
So it ends up being just for the three parks. It ends up being 15,828 for the year. 15 for all three parks. Out of that 21. So I will tell you, it's good to look, but I will tell you, and Zach, were you here when we did the contract, or were you included?
Yeah, so the bid went out before I got here, but the contract was finished when I got here for
Yeah.
Santero.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, because
They're not knocking down the door.
the price, what he quoted us compared to the next one,
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, it was way underbid compared to any of the other, if you remember. It was a huge.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to look at it if there's any kind of savings that are in there, but I can tell you compared to it, yeah, let's see if we can dig those documents out, but I can tell you it was a huge difference. How
Yeah.
much?
No, we definitely have them back there.
I just have a hard time saying like we have somebody who's in charge of parks and recreations and he can't do it with his machinery. And we're having to pay somebody outside the source to do that. I mean, I think it should be part of his job. I mean, he's in charge of parks and recreations. He should be cutting. He should be weed eating it all. We bought him. I say we, I wasn't here, but he's got that zero turn. He's got the weed eater. He's got that gator. He should be in charge of all that, and we shouldn't be having to make this extra $2,275 a month that he should be doing. I mean, maybe it's something we look at to say, hey, you're going to be doing this now, and out of that $2,075, we give him a little bump in pay, and now this is your responsibility. I personally, I think that's the way it should be. I mean, I don't think we should be paying any extra for anybody to be cutting anything.
We'll go with a part-time guy.
Or you got a part-time guy that comes in and you say, hey, you know what, he needs help, or I mean, it could be anybody, right? I mean, that's how I think it should be, you know.
I mean, I would say that if we're
I think
going
it's
to
probably
share,
good before we go through that. I think it's good that we bring the job description first.
Yeah.
And really understand what the responsibilities and what we're paying him for, and make a determination if that's included or it needs to be included, and if we need to bump it up or whatever we need to do, because
at that point we could put more into park improvements, right? If we're not paying this out, we can put more towards budget to something else to do more park improvements, right? I mean, I'd like to see a splash pad one day.
Spend another.
You know, I mean, these local parks around here have splash pads. I'd like to see that one day here in Lytle. It brings in more people, you know. I mean, my vision would be to knock that big old mountain down and put the splash pad right there, with little barbecue pits around there, you know?
There's treasure in there.
Well, I mean, I will tell you, one thing personally I see that would be nice, we had someone in-house, and I don't know for all or something, the community center, for example. I work up there, we've had events up there, and it needs, a lot of times it needs mowing before an event. I mean, I'm surprised people haven't complained that they pay hundreds of dollars, and, you know, it's not the guy's fault, he only has to mow it so often. But, you know, we need to have the ability to have that thing looking good when people rent it, or when we've had events up there. And I've come home from there after working in security one night, and the stickers all over my pants because the stickers are hot.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just looking at that one aspect. The whole other aspect, I don't know. But, you know, I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, I can tell you from experience that I was at a birthday party there and Elmo came by and he got a lot of stickers. He definitely complained.
Yeah.
But I think you got to look on the other hand too. The ideal contractor, if we are paying a contractor fee, would be is if the city had some kind of an emergency, a bad storm come through, that contractor should be able to bring in the personnel to come and clean up. Now, I understand it'd probably be an extra cost, but to me, that would be the only benefit of having an actual contractor doing the landscaping.
Well, I mean, I guess at that point, we would,
Well, and
like
I,
an emergency fund, right? And if the tree fell down, we would just call somebody in to come do it for us versus having it on the contract. You know, it would be just like a one-time call. Hey, I need you to come out and do this. Or
I mean, I can tell you that under the gentleman under this contract, that would be unrealistic.
Yeah.
I'll just be
I
perfectly
understand
frank.
That's what I said. Ideally, that contract should be able to fulfill that requirement.
Sure.
Needed.
Understood.
Hire him, that guy under city.
yeah. No, but like Mayor said, let's try that. Let's see what his job descriptions are.
Yeah,
It might not
I
even
can-
be in there.
I
We
can
might
pull
have
the
missed
job
something that says,
description
hey, you know
and-
what? You only do this, and that's it. So that's why he's doing it. But
Yeah.
take a look at it.
I can pull the job description and we can have further conversation about it for sure. So.
That'd be good. Just to make sure. Yeah, I just wish, honestly, I was surprised the last time how much they were charging for the service.
Yeah.
To be able to, I was like, wow.
And they do it so quick. They're in and out.
Yeah.
I mean, I go because I go to the park and go run over there, and you see when they come cut, they're not there long. I mean, they're busting out and then they're gone.
If I recall the one, like some of the other like community center and city hall and that kind of stuff was somewhat lower on some of those other ones, but the park was the big one, and the park was, I mean, it was way out there on some of the numbers that we got back. So
Yeah. It's just back here and then this little island.
yeah, which
That's
most
it.
of that's rock and everything up here.
Well, no, over here,
You
where,
have over
yeah,
here,
this
yeah.
right here, a little bit. Yeah, this is all lava. Right?
City Hall and, the police department. The police department's 110.
Let's go, Rich. Let's go, Rich.
Hold on, police department's 110? If they're not cutting the police department, they gotta.
No, they don't cut the police department. He doesn't cut it.
On the outside?
No.
Nope.
That's something we've been doing that.
It was not included in his bid.
We owe me and Danny some money.
Mm.
Yeah, for the last 2 years, this is the second.
That's the way it should be, though, right? I mean, they take care of, they beautify their own place. I mean,
That was in 2022.
Oh, scared me for a minute. I thought I was doing all that for nothing.
We'll pull it. We'll have a conversation.
thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
That'll be good. All right.
That's all we got on that.
Okay.
Unfortunately, so as my email I just with a bunch of stuff going on, Robbie and I really haven't had a chance to sit down on the water and sewer, and it is. I don't want to also be here forever, and I know that's a big chunk of our budget, and so we'll spend some time here in the next couple of weeks before our next, and we'll have be able to present some of that to y'all on that one. But I think this is a good start of where we're at, and give the obviously your staff an opportunity to speak to you and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. So
Awesome. Any questions on any of the presentations? Any last minute? Okay. So let's go ahead and actually we still have we might be able to, and then we get to enjoy. Unless you guys want to take a break.
Let's push through.
You guys good? Okay. So item number 5, presentation, discussion, and direction concerning council priorities for fiscal year 2024 to 2025. So Zach has taken all the inputs, how we ranked ordered them, put them all together, and then came up with the list and said these are the things that we should be. Now, once again, the main reason that we're doing this is we want to make sure that our staff is focused on what would be the top priorities. As we knock those out, then we can go ahead and go down. So I'll just give you an example. So if we were looking at, based on a number, I'll just say field lights at John Lott Park, okay? And we give a ranking down there. We really don't want us to put the focus and, hey, let's go ahead and do that. Even though, by the way, we're looking for a grant to take care of that, okay? But it's already being worked on and everything else. But we don't want to focus, hey, you need to go after this and get it done like ASAP or try to take care of it. So that's the main reason that we do that. So based on the results, I'll let you go ahead and brief on what came up.
Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward, I think, I don't think it surprises probably anybody, but, really the top 5 are all infrastructure related items. And those are highlighted on there for you. But wastewater treatment plan obviously coming in at item 1, the capital improvement plan update at item 2, water infrastructure repairs and replacement 3, expansion of sewer system around the city, stormwater and drainage 4, and then expansion of sewer system around the city at 5. Then they kind of follow from there. I think we only had a tie of Benton City road drainage and comprehensive plan at 10
That's why
and
there were
11. So that's why there's 2 10s there.
Yeah.
Some of these obviously that were on here were new from last year. We did remove a few based on the feedback from y'all's emails originally. The biggest one would be, grants was removed from the previous. We obviously have EMC on board and they are actively looking at various things. And I think that some of those obviously encompass what's already on here, right? Just to the point of the mayor a second ago is, we're already looking at a grant for some of the lights out at John, Lott Park. So, and they're actively trying to find us some, water and wastewater infrastructure money as well. So, this kind of all feeds in. Obviously, stormwater and drainage, and there's even, on here you have Benton City road drainage as well as Adams Street drainage. Obviously, that kind of somewhat falls in and intermingles with each other. And obviously, we'll have another conversation at Monday's meeting regarding the stormwater utility fund, which is obviously we're pushing that forward. So, and having those conversations. So obviously if there's any questions or concerns or anybody wants to.
I just want to say to council, thank you for especially, in the top 2 with the capital improvement plan. We have to get that done. Zach, if you can give him a little bit of background in a sense of how having that done, how it helps us with other things, how it works.
Yeah. So obviously, having the capital improvement plan, one, you really shouldn't be expending your impact fees unless you have a capital improvement plan. The state actually has that requirement. So if a project comes up that we know about and we haven't listed it in our capital improvement plan, it's really difficult to use money that we have sitting there, that people have been paying to, upgrade and maintain our system. That's probably the number one, big thing of having that. And it really just helps us guide, the city forward, for the next 5 years is typically when you're seeing them cycle through, and helping us kind of plan appropriately projects and identifying funds for those projects.
So we do that in-house or do we contract out the plan?
We work with TRC, our engineers on that. So typically
it will be an expense, but it's not like
there will be some expense associated with that, and they're aware of that already. And if we've had already conversations that, hey, this is coming up, we really need to start thinking about this.
You have experience. How long does it take to put one of these together?
Just kind of depends. I would say 5 to 6 months, give or take.
I was saying 6 to 7.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay.
It takes a little bit of time.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we have to get it done. I mean, honestly, this is just like Zach was saying, this is what's going to help us be able to provide and show whenever we apply for certain things, it's like, okay, what does your plan say?
Yeah.
You know? And so you got to have that and be able to do
Does
that.
that
And they're going to
include-
reference that in grants and all that kind of stuff too. So yeah.
Does that include, town hall meetings? We have to have meetings with the public to pass this thing?
It's probably not a bad idea to incorporate some of that, but there's no requirement to do that.
The one that we do have is the one that is due in 2025,
Yes.
a comprehensive plan. That one we have to do the town hall meetings and everything.
Okay.
Yep.
I knew that they were involved somewhere. I didn't know which ones.
Yeah. And that one we might maybe, I know it's in the priority, it's right in the middle. We're going to take care of those, but I would probably say halfway through this fiscal year, we probably need to start having that discussion to be able to get it done on time.
Yeah.
Based on the time that it takes and having the city involvement with that.
And again, is it TRC that helps us with that or
No.
outside?
No, in the past, I think the last one y'all used an actual like planning consultant, like I can't remember, Half and Associates, I think was used on this last one. Yeah, so typically that's what you see. We could do some of it in house, but I don't have enough time to devote, to that end.
Yeah.
They'll be coming to you for
We have
input
them-
anyhow, so you'll be
Yes.
involved.
We need to probably start, we need to start talking to some of the major schools.
Yeah.
Because there are programs out there with
Yes,
like
there
Texas
is.
A&M and
Yes.
some of these big schools
Yeah.
where basically we're paying for the interns to travel and stay down here, but they'll help us put it together.
Yeah.
And they'll actually help us put the town halls. Is that correct?
Yes. So in Dickinson, actually, from my experience, right, we actually used A&M to do the city's first ever comprehensive plan. They had not had a comprehensive plan, and I got there and we moved forward with A&M to do that. One thing you really have to be, students can be pie in the sky sometimes, and that's great for some things, but we also need to, bring back for reality. But it does help with saving costs. And so, working with staff to make sure, and council, and really the public to make sure that we're doing everything appropriately and moving forward.
And you have to start early because it's based on their school year. So you have to get it in a certain time to catch them as they're starting their semester as part of that portion of their project. So you could be able to get it done on the time that you're looking at. Is that correct?
Yep.
Zach?
Yep.
So it's a timing thing that goes, but you do save a lot of money.
Yes.
So it's a good thing.
Can you explain the capital improvement plan, comprehensive plan, and the storm water and drainage study? How do they relate to each other, and does the capital improvement plan, for example, look at stormwater and drainage?
Yes, it would. It would.
You need both?
Yes, because the capital improvement is going to include, our water and our sewer infrastructure as well, as not just drainage.
So it may not be as detailed information, but that information would be included?
Correct.
So what about the comprehensive plan?
The comprehensive plan, typically you're looking at land use, you're looking at transportation, how our road network is. It's more of a planning framework
So
of
those
how
aren't capital
how we want
improvements.
to develop in the next 5 to 10 years.
So those are not capital improvements, those are.
Now, I will say cities, there's been a huge push to kind of include their CIP into the comprehensive planning process, because in reality, it all does relate and kind of moves forward and helps guide decisions. It's really a personal preference on how y'all want to do that, but so.
Is that
One
kind of
is
the
the
same?
infrastructure and everything else to be able to support along with the drainage. And the other one is more like, how would we want the city to be laid out? What are we envisioning? How the growth, and where do you want certain things? How do you want things zoned? So you can kind of control that. So if somebody comes in, you have a vision or you already have an idea. Well, that doesn't fit into what we decided for the next 10 years. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, and I think we're seeing that a lot more, right? We've had a lot more zoning conversations recently, so we're starting to see, and it comes with the territory of growing and we're just at that point where, you know, it's time to make some decisions for the next 5 to 10 years.
So the comprehensive plan is a document?
It is, yes.
Can we get a copy of it if we hadn't already?
Yes,
It's
I will.
online too. It's online.
Send me a link.
It is online.
I get lost on looking
I will.
at it.
I'll shoot it over. I'll shoot it to all of you.
Yeah, it is.
Traffic flow
Send me that link.
discussion be in the
It's
comprehensive
out
plan?
there.
Yes, typically, yeah, transportation and how, you know, how, like our road network and traffic concerns and all that is typically included in that. You'll
Now, that could be a separate study by itself.
Sure.
Too, right?
Yeah. You'll also have typically parks and open space, a discussion on that, and how, you know, we want to look at that.
That's how the students come. They come in and they say this would be the ideal way based on what they've been studying, and they lay it out. And then we get a chance, along with the public, to say, "Nah, we really want it over here. We want it over here." But it's a conceptual, and then we come up with a plan that is going to guide us as we actually build out, whether it's residential, business, commercial, parks, whatever it is.
And then you'll actually, and you have it in this one as well, in the one we currently have, but you'll have an implementation plan built into that. So there'll be milestones that you can actually staff and council saying, you know, where are we at, and, you know, moving 5, 3 years, 2 years out, 4 years out, you know, and tackling these implementation items to move in that direction. So, because you don't want it just to sit on the shelf.
I could see that also driving manpower hires too. right?
Sure.
How come the replacement or maintenance of water valves isn't under the water infrastructure repairs or replacement?
Yeah, so I mean, some of these and your input on some of this is helpful for me, because most of these were already kind of established.
Yeah. Which one are you
items.
asking for, Miguel?
The replacement or maintenance of water valves around the city?
Yeah. So this one came out here with working with Robbie. Ideally, years ago when we were putting the different water lines, there should have been some key valves installed in certain places. So whenever we have a leak, then Robbie would be able, and the guys would be able to go over there and say, close, close. We can isolate it and work on that without affecting the rest of the city. Unfortunately, some of those valves that were supposed to be put in different places were not put in places. Is that right, Robbie? So now what we do, even in anything, the first thing when we're talking about a water project that we're going to be working on or something, okay, do we need a valve? Yes. Okay, let's put a valve there. So, but we're going to need to go back and install in different places. We're going to need to install water valves. Robbie, is there anything that you would like to add on that, just based on the city in whole?
Yeah, and they are, when they are, to your point, water infrastructure repairs and replacement, right? So when we're going in and we are repairing these lines, they are actively looking and making, you know, those water valves put in
There's some
place.
places that don't have valves. So if we have a break, you can't contain it. So we need to go back and put something there when we get a chance to put something there. So, and honestly, just like on 2790 going out, as we fixed a leak, Robbie, how much? 11, 12 years have been leaking. Robbie went in there and they put a valve. So now as we're expanding and they're building houses and we got to do a project down that road, you can close the valve and now it seals the rest of the city and we don't need to worry about it affecting us. It will affect residents, but it won't affect our whole city, where we have to bring the pressure down and we end up having to run into the risk of a water boil. So that's what we're trying to avoid. So we got two more major projects that we got to take care of. So as soon as we get done with those 2 major projects, and we're working on a few other ones, then that's going to be part of the discussion in there. But of course, we'll come to council, you know, and because that is going to be additional stuff that we'll need to do. But we eventually will need to really study where we need some key valves and do that work, so we can at least isolate it or contain a quadrant of the city without shutting down the rest of the city. Does that help, Miguel?
I understand that, but I just didn't understand why it wasn't under water infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of clear that a lot of them are intermingled with each
Yeah.
other, right? So again, like I was saying, the Adams Street and the Benton City Road drainage, in reality, do fall under stormwater and drainage, right? So
Yeah.
it's just those ones were specifically identified. So we wanted to make sure we had it on the list. But obviously, just because we're gonna tackle stormwater and drainage issues, and Benton City and Adams were much lower on the list, doesn't mean those are going to get neglected, for that reason. They're going to be included within that. So,
And the water valves will ultimately pay for themselves.
yes. Oh, 100%.
We won't be losing water, won't have as much manpower or.
So next year, when we go through this again, right, as part of the budget, we'll scrub the list again, and if we need to massage it and do different things, we'll do that. Take off the stuff that we were able to accomplish, and then redefine, and then revote. But it's a very helpful document that helps them so they can concentrate their efforts. So they're not out there, trying to work on something that the council doesn't feel is a priority. If they get to it, that's great, but we're not going to spend a lot of time, on something. We want to concentrate their efforts on the most important thing. They're all important, but the most important thing.
The last thing I'll say to it, just FYI, the two of the items that are still in the top 5 were also listed last year as your top 5 as well. So just some of these are big items that take a little while to figure out. So.
Yep. All right. Anything on this? Any questions or any concerns or anything for the city staff? Okay. Well, with that in mind, it is 8:03, and can I have a motion for us to go ahead and adjourn?
Go ahead. I'll
Okay.
second.
Got a second? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.